You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, December 9th. No, March 9th. Sure, let's go with March 9th. That sounds like a much better date. And today we are going to be talking about The Mandalorian Season 2 and The Bad Batch and the latest news. And we got some keynotes for you. So it's going to be a good day here on the Dan Wickline Show. So stick around and we'll have some fun. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I see we got Jeff, Ed, and Triple B. Good to see you guys. Triple B asks, do you like scary movies? And that's kind of a funny thing. When I got into writing comics, a good friend of mine, Steve Niles, got me a lot of work. He and I co-wrote stuff. He got me connected with some publishers. So a lot of the early stuff I did was horror. And I got kind of known as being a horror writer, which is very interesting because I am not necessarily a horror fan. I don't do a lot of horror movies. I do like the old Hammer films, the old Universal monster movies, and I like, psychological thrillers, stuff like that. Basically everything up until they started doing, where the scares became nothing but jump scares and loud music and stuff is when I kind of tapped out, or when it's gruesome just for gruesome sake. So I've seen a few horror movies, more recent ones. I saw Malignant, which was absolutely terrible. But overall, I'm not a big horror guy. But Universal monster movies, I am all over that. So, actually, Ed, that reminds me. The other day, we were talking about the creature from the Black Lagoon because Rico Browning passed away. And you brought up a name, I believe his name was Troy. I don't remember what the last name was. And you said that was the creature. The gentleman who you brought up was the creature on land in the second Creature from the Black Lagoon. In the first Creature of the Black Lagoon, the actor's name was Ben Chapman. And he got the role because where they got Rico Browning to do the underwater stunts and, wear the costume, he wasn't really tall enough. And they went to the 6'3" Chapman instead. So he did the on-land stuff while Rico did the underwater stuff in all three of the Creature movies. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I hadn't had a chance to since then. So Jeff says Mando's back to let you know he can really shake him down. Okay, I see you're doing a musical cue there. Got it. All right. Today we are going to be doing the newer format. Yesterday we had an incredible conversation with Jeff Trexler from the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And if you missed it, please go online and watch it. It was a great conversation. It's an important conversation with everything that's going on with book banning and stuff like that, and these challenges to some of the graphic novels that are out there. So if you get a chance, go out and watch that episode. It was very important. But we've got this newer format where we're going to do basically the news, the first break, our main story, the final break, and then we're going to talk key comics. So we're going to keep that going. And of course, let's get right into the news here. Now, there's a lot of news today. It's surprisingly how much news we got. But if you were like me and you're wondering what happened to the villain teased at the end of the first Shazam movie, Well, you're not alone. The character of Mr. Mind is introduced at the end of the first Shazam, in the cell where Mark Strong's Dr. Savannah ends up. Now, we should have known that this wasn't going to be a character that was brought back immediately. And that's mainly because it was voiced by David F. Sandberg, the director. So they just kind of, said, "Hey, David, why don't you voice Mr. Mind?" And if they were going to use Mr. Mind in a larger way, they would have brought in a more prominent actor, I believe. Um, but and if you're not familiar with Mr. Mind, he first appeared in Captain Marvel Adventures back in 1943 in issue number 26. And he's one of the better known Shazam villains. I mean, there's Black Adam, there's Dr. Savannah, there's Mr. Mind. And that pretty much taps out my knowledge of Shazam villains. I know there's a lot of them, but that's kind of where mine ends. So, but according to the writer and the director, they thought about paying off that scene and use Mr. Mind. But they kind of tossed that out pretty early on and decided, and this is a quote, that that he should be villain, that to focus on villains Shazam should be fighting. So now we're getting characters created specifically for the film that have never appeared in the comics. And I'm a bit of a Greek mythology buff. And while Zeus does have a lot of daughters, Zeus got around. There is no real reference to the daughters they're bringing, Hespera, Calypso, and Anthea. So, hey, Kenneth. And at no point in the myths are the daughters referred to collectively as the daughters of Zeus. So it seems like they're just winging it on this upcoming Fury of the Gods. Now, why did they get away from a talking angry caterpillar? Maybe they didn't think society would take that seriously. But then again, we have a movie with a talking raccoon, so I don't know. Aren't they the daughters of Atlas? I thought they were the daughters of Zeus. Huh. I could be wrong, JD. You might be right on that. So either way, they're not characters that Shazam has ever faced before. They are characters created for the movie. So, all right, we got some good news. You guys remember when Discovery bought Warner Brothers and they were canceling everything left and right, and everybody's like, "No, don't cancel, don't cancel." Yeah, well, and they were trying to save money because, let's face it, Warner Brothers got sold because they were in financial problems, and Discovery came in. They brought David Zaslav came in and started axing stuff. And one of the things he axed was a new animated Batman series called Batman Caped Crusader that was being put together by J.J. Abrams, the Batman director, writer Matt Reeves, and of course, Bruce Timm. Well, that series, which had originally gotten a straight-to-series order at HBO Max, is now going over to Amazon Prime and has a 2-season order. So we're going to get 2 seasons of it no matter what happens. Now, again, this was originally a cost-cutting move, but what we're getting is a new Batman animated series from the guy that co-created Batman the Animated Series, which ran for over 100 episodes in the mid-90s and led to a Superman spinoff and the Amazing Justice League series. So I don't know how they even thought about canceling it, but now what Warner Brothers Discovery does is they cancel it and then they sell it off to Amazon, and now they're making money that way. So hopefully this is all going to work out in the best and we get a good Batman series. So let's go on over to Deadline is reporting that there may be more Creed in the future. See, Amazon is pretty happy right now with their purchase of MGM Studios because Creed is one of the franchises from MGM, and the third Creed film racked up 100 million plus global opening and set a box office record for it's the most money that Amazon has made in a film opening. Now, what they're talking about is that this could spawn more films and TV shows. There have been meetings with the star, Michael B. Jordan, who's also a filmmaker, and he's very excited about expanding the Creed universe. Now, the plans that they've been talking about so far, well, they want to get bolder in the wake of how big Creed 3 did, but they've already been talking about an animated series, a live action companion to the Creed movies, also a possible series focused on Adonis Creed's daughter, Amara. And then there's already been talks, they've been in early production of a Drago spinoff series with Dolph Lundgren and Florian Montaño reprising their roles as Ivan and Victor, with a script that's already been commissioned by writer Robert Lawton. So we're probably going to get some more Creed and Creed Universe stuff. And I find it funny they refer to this as the Creed Universe, because isn't it the Rocky Universe? Didn't Rocky start all this? Isn't Ivan and Victor Drago from the Rocky series? It's kind of like going, well, it's the NCIS universe. Well, yeah, but it started with JAG, the Jeffersons universe. It started with them All in the Family. It just seems kind of weird to me that they're kind of forgetting where it actually started. But all right, lots more news here. Going to keep going. Yeah, apparently the daughters of Atlas from Greek mythology, also is known as Hesperides and the daughters of Night. Okay. See, that makes much more sense, because I couldn't find anything on the daughters of Zeus, but daughters of Atlas, that makes more sense. All right. Nick says, thanks to everyone for showing up and hitting that thumbs up. That's a gentle reminder of please hit that thumbs up button that's down there. Yeah. While you're here, remember to subscribe. We got that big giveaway coming up where we're going to be giving away slabbed comic books, and you're going to want one of these. They're worth roughly $100 each. So, and each show is going to have one to give away. So I'll have one here to give away. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're in the contest or in the drawing or whatever you want to refer to it as. All right, let's get back to the news. Bob Iger is talking about the future of both Marvel and Star Wars films. Now, with the Marvel stuff, he says there are 7,000 characters. There's a lot more stories to tell. We have to look at Marvel is not necessarily, basically, it's not necessarily the volume of Marvel stories they're telling, but how many times they go back to the well on a certain character. Sequels typically work well for us, but do you need a third or fourth, for instance, or is it time to turn to another character? And while you could speculate, this may be coming off the fact that Thor: Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania didn't necessarily do as well as they had hoped. Iger is stressing that there is nothing inherently wrong with Marvel's brand or what they're doing. He just thinks that they have to look at what characters and stories they're mining. If you look at the trajectory of Marvel in the next 5 years, there will be a lot of newness. We're going to turn back to the Avengers franchise with a whole new set of Avengers, for example. So maybe it's time, so it sounds like he's saying maybe it's time to move away from Ant-Man 4, Thor 5, Doctor Strange 3. Do we need those things, or is it time to move on to other characters? Now, as for Star Wars, Iger talks about how the soft box office for Solo gave them kind of pause because they had a lot of stuff in the pipeline they were working on. Now, Disney is still developing Star Wars films, but they're going to make sure when they make one, it's the right one. So they're going to be very careful. But he does consider the Star Wars episodic series to be extremely successful. So we're going to keep seeing stuff like Andor, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi. Those are going to keep rolling out. So speaking of Mando, in an interview with Deadline, Katie Sackhoff was talking about Bo-Katan and her reaction to Din Djarin. That was the basic gist of the interview, and that's going to play into our main story. But there was a very last question on there that I thought was newsworthy. She was asked if Bo-Katan would be appearing in the upcoming Ahsoka series. And while she originally says, I can't reveal anything, she ends up adding that no, as of right now, she's not in the Ahsoka series. Now, if you're a fan of the Rebels series, that's where you see that a lot of Ahsoka is going to come out of Rebels. You know, the hunt for Admiral Thrawn, trying to find Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, and the rest of the Rebels. All of that stuff is going to pertain to Ahsoka. And Bo-Katan is part of that as well. So the fact she's not going to be in it tells us that it's going to be kept a little smaller at first. Let's see. Ed says, I don't know if the BC list of Marvel characters will be able to carry film success. Streaming series might be the better way to go. Guess we'll see. Yeah. But there's still some Marvel characters they haven't got to that I think could do films, like Nova. Nova's one that comes up all the time. The Fantastic Four still has a film to do, stuff like that. So I still think there's some major Marvel characters, and then you got the X-Men franchise they have back, stuff like that. So I think there's still plenty of characters they haven't tapped yet. So, all right, moving on. With the announcement of John Bernthal returning as the Punisher in Daredevil Born Again, it was noted that neither Elton Henson or Deborah Ann Woll were among the known cast at this point. But we didn't know if it was a matter of Foggy and Karen Page weren't going to be in the series or if they were going to be recast. Well, there's rumors swirling now that the roles are being recast, and to absolutely no one's surprise, there's a huge uproar online. Everybody's going crazy, yelling, "Oh my God, Marvel's making a mistake. How could they recast?" Now, no one is saying why. So anybody who's reporting this rumor isn't coming out and saying, well, this is why Henson and Wool aren't coming back. So, maybe their schedules don't match up, something like that. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe they don't want to come back. But no one's addressing that. They're just saying, oh, the word is that it's being recast. Nothing proves that to be true. It's just a rumor at this point. And there's no reason that if it is true, why those characters are not coming back, whether it's their choice, Marvel's choice. None of that is out there. But of course, the internet is going crazy saying, oh my God, Marvel's making a giant mistake. Funny how that works, isn't it? All right. One last news story, and this is kind of a fun one. This has to do with the upcoming second season of Marvel's What If. Now, Marvel has announced today that the second season of What If will introduce a new Native American hero named Kahori. Now, the episode will take place in a pre-colonized North America and asks the question of what if the Tesseract landed in the sovereign Haudenosaunee Confederacy, basically before the Europeans came over and tried to colonize. Now, what happens is the Tesseract, which of course houses the Space Stone in the MCU, transforms a lake into a gateway to the stars and leads a young Mohawk woman on a quest to discover her powers. Now, this is being written by Ryan Little, and Marvel actually worked with members of the Mohawk Nation to make this as accurate as possible. They worked with a guy named Doug George, who's a historian. They also worked with a Mohawk language expert named Cecilia King. So they're putting a lot of effort into making this as accurate as possible. The story takes place in the Akwesasne region, which is now basically upstate New York. This, of course, news comes just after learning that the second season debut of What If is going to be delayed until 2024. So it's starting to sound like we're actually not going to get a lot of Marvel TV this year. We're going to get Secret Invasion. We're going to get Loki 2. I don't know if we're going to get anything else. We may get Echo. We may not. But it looks like they're trying to pace this stuff out a little more, spread it out. And we'll have to see how all that works out. But if they play them, I'll cover them. So, all right. That post-pandemic content rush is over, I guess. Exactly. Basically, they had a backlog of a bunch of shows and specials and everything that they were then rushing to get special effects done on. And now they're kind of taking a step back. They're taking a breath. They don't have a ton of stuff already made that they have to get out. So they can actually find what's a workable um, strategy for them. Maybe it's 3 movies and 3 series a year, or maybe a special gets thrown in there, that type of stuff. So that's what they're working on. So it says, I love that What If, not only because the stories are awesome, because they can do whatever they want without all the backlash, whining because it's a what if. Yeah, that is brilliant. I absolutely love that. All right. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch. We will be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with, advertised here on The Experience, and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We got a great lineup on the Experience today. Right after this is What's in the Box. Miss Jen is back, and she'll be doing some great $2 books. And she also has the first appearance of Carnage. So you'll want to check out that. After that, we got Space Cadets. And then tonight on SketchUp, Mog and Mel welcome the writer of the Boston Metaphysical Society, and her name is Madeline. I cannot for the life of me think of her last name at this moment. Hopefully JD will pop in and give me her last name. And also tomorrow, you'll want to check out the Original Art Show with Nick Barucci, and they're going to be doing a big fundraiser for George Perez's widow, Carol Flynn. And they've got some George Perez art, some Karen Dwyer art, some shirts that Carol had made. And there was also some Jim Starlin art. So it's going to be a big night over on the original art show. So check that out. Now let's go ahead. The 2 quick news stories popped up since the show started. I'll just do those quickly. Number 1, Shrinking, the show with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel on Apple Plus, has been renewed for a 2nd season. And at South by Southwest next week, there will be a secret screening of John Wick 4. So we'll start getting some reviews of that or some thoughts on that pretty much shortly after next week. So, all right, let's get Madeline Holly Rising. That's who's on Sketch Up tonight. So definitely want to stick around for all that. Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2 dropped. And my complaint about Episode 1 was the only complaint I had about it is it was very by the numbers. It's, hey, we're going to go to this planet, and we're going to go to this planet, and then we're going to go to this planet. This is going to happen in between. This is going to happen. It was just boom, 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 boom. There really wasn't a flowing story. They were like separate little scenes. And it felt a lot like the early parts of a quest line in World of Warcraft, where it's, oh, I'm going to go talk to the armorer, and she's going to put me on the quest to bathe in the waters in the mines of Mandalore. Oh, to do that, I need to go get a droid to help me, so I better go to Navarro and get the IG-11 droid. Oh, they need a memory chip, so I need to go to Tatooine to pick that up. But first, I'll go swing by and get directions from Bo-Katan. And it's like, oh, we have pirates to face here. And, oh, we have, it's like, oh, we're going to meet Purgles in the speed in hyperspace. So it did feel a little bit by the numbers. This new episode, not so much. This new episode, if I had any complaint at all, it's just that it's really, really dark. Really dark. Other than that, I thought it was a great episode. We got to see how much Grogu has moved up. Oh, we should probably hit the spoiler warning just in case. Press X to doubt. All right. So basically, I thought this was going to be a buildup. I thought we were going to have to move around. We were going to have to get IG-11 rebuilt. And then, it was going to be a couple episodes till we actually land on Mandalore. No, not at all. We start by going back to Tatooine and talk to Pelimoto with the whole idea of getting the memory thing for IG-11. She talks to a Jawa and goes, nope, can't find it. There's other Jawas, there's other places, other planets. Why is it this is the only... As soon as they say no, he's like, oh, all right. But she sells him an old classic, R5-D4, the droid that had a bad motivator that made Luke and Uncle Owen buy R2-D2 and started the whole thing. Had they taken R5-D4, I don't think Luke would ever have ended up in space. He'd still be on the planet. So, yeah, he ends up taking R5-D4. And what's funny is comic fans, the people who have read the lore and stuff, they know that they've played with R5-D4 in the comics to the point there's even an episode that makes him into a Jedi, a Force-sensitive droid who fakes the motivator destruction to get R2-D2 to go with Luke. And so there's this whole backstory. I think Peter David wrote it, but all of that's gone. Here, he's kind of a scaredy little robot. She plays him up that he's been part of the rebellion, all this other stuff. But for all we know, he's never left Tatooine. So, he was on the planet during the Phantom Menace. He's on the planet during New Hope, and he's still on the planet. So, but she ends up selling him R5-D4, and they put the droid seat back in. Ed says it was weird seeing her speak Jawa. Don't forget, they busted out during Book of Boba Fett that she used to date a Jawa, and how they're very furry underneath the robes. That's a disturbing image that I've not been able to get rid of since. But so this whole episode then takes place on Mandalore, which surprised me. And you see Din land there. He sends the droid out to check the air. The droid disappears, so he gets out, pressurizes his helmet, and it's gets to be kind of a scary thing. And as Ed said, it is a very dark episode because they take place in a cave, and it's hard to see what's going on. And I don't appreciate when they do that. It's like you could put some kind of light source in there, fire something so we can see. It doesn't need to be dark. I know you're going for the whole mood and scary. You can still do that without it being hard to see anything. But we see this weird kind of cyborgish spider creature who's got a couple different units he can climb into. Yeah, like the Willow episode that was super dark. And you save money on special effects if you make it dark, because then they don't have to be as good. But Din gets captured and tells Grogu to go get Bo-Katan. Mind you, he was very nice to point out where Bo-Katan was on the map. So it's like, there's Mandalore, there's Concordia, the moon I grew up on. This is where Bo-Katan is over here. I don't remember the name of that planet. But so it's all laid out. So it's like, later on, when you need to go get her, there it is. She's right there. And of course, R5-D4 can fly it, can fly the N1. So, but it's all set up that way, and he ends up getting captured, and we get to see Grogu in action. He takes out a beast. He going around in his little floating pram, and that's a pretty badass little contraption. I'm surprised Yoda didn't have one of those, because at one point they have to drop down to find the mines, and Din just steps off and uses his jetpack to float down. Well, Grogu just goes with him, and the hover thing is just. I was like, that's badass. And then when he has to leave, is so it's a little more than just a hovering pram. It's got some abilities, but he of course has to go back and get Bo-Katan, who Bo-Katan is so funny in this episode. She's still sitting on the throne where we saw her last episode. And it's almost like that's all she's doing. She's depressed. She's just sitting around waiting. I want to be alone. Just leave me alone. I'm going to get rid of you for one last time. But as soon as she sees that Din's in trouble and that Grogu's by himself, she's like, prepare my ship. We're going. You have to lead me back to him. It's like, if you really just wanted to be alone, just kind of guarantee it now. Just stay on your planet. Let Grogu go find somebody else for help. No, she immediately fires up her ship, and they fly back. And we get to see her in action as well, which I think is really cool. Because not only do we see her using her abilities and the weapons that she normally uses, there's a point that she gets her hand on the Darksaber, and we see Din at one point fighting with the Darksaber, and he still hasn't adjusted to it yet. He's still fighting against it. So it becomes very heavy, and he's having a hard time with it. Where Bo-Katan picks it up, and her mindset's right, whatever it is, she's just using it, no problem. She's moving around, she's doing great moves, and is able to rescue Din Djarin. And is like, let's get out of here. And when he insists on finishing his mission to go bathe in the waters under the mines of Mandalore, she could easily take off, say, okay, I'll send your droid back with your ship or something. No, she stays. She's like, fine, I will take you there, or you'll never find it. So her wanting to be alone, out the window like that. So while they're walking and talking, she's giving a lot of exposition on the history of Mandalore, which I think is pretty cool. The Force Yoda ally was, no need there was of trinkets. Nice, Judy. So she's given the whole history. She's talking about her father, and she doesn't mention her sister much, which is interesting because I think Satine would have been an interesting character to bring up, especially since she's got a relationship with Obi-Wan, but I think they're just staying away from that right now. But it says, as Mando was leaving Tatooine, Peli says, "May the Force be with you." Was that the first time anyone said that in the series? It was cool to hear. I think Ahsoka may have said it, but that might have been in Book of Boba Fett. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it might be the first time in the series. And I think she was probably saying it to Grogu, because that's what you say to a Jedi. But yeah, so the episode continues on, and they get to this thing, and she reads out this plaque that's in Mandalore. And as she's reading it, she talks about how the original Mandalore slew the mythosaur, and is supposed to be in the waters. That's why they're the living waters, and all this stuff. And Din is supposed to bathe in it, so he takes off his jetpack and his gun and the saber, light black dark saber, and his cloak, and just walks in the water in the rest of his Beskar armor, which doesn't seem like a wise move anyway. And then suddenly he's pulled under. Now, this is the one confusing part for me, is did he just walk out, suddenly there was nothing underneath him, he just went because he was in the heavy armor and didn't have his jetpack, or did something pull him under? Because he's at the bottom when she dives in to find him. So Bo-Katan gave us a lot of Mando lore. Yeah, JD. Yeah. Anyway, so she dives down, gets him, and starts pulling him out. And then she sees this giant creature under the water. And I'm fairly sure we're supposed to know that that is a mythosaur. That either the original Mandalore didn't kill it, or maybe that's a baby mythosaur. Maybe that was the one he killed was a mama, and that's the baby, and it's just been growing all these years. And it's been years. It's been a long time. But there's a mythosaur in that water. And you got to kind of believe that that's going to come up somehow. And that's the basic gist of this particular episode, is Din completes his quest. He is bathed in the waters of Mandalore, in the mines of Mandalore. Mind you, he almost drowned in the living waters in the mines of Mandalore, and he had to get saved. So does that count? But anyway, he's been in the water, so technically he's not an apostate anymore. He can go back to being his, child of the watch, and he can go back to the armorer and all that and tell her that, hey, the planet isn't cursed, which is going to lead to factions and stuff fighting. I'm not sure if this is such a good idea, but it says, I was wondering the same thing. He fell far fast, but it didn't appear she found him at the bottom that the mythosaur did anything to him. then the episode ends with her looking at the water like she's waiting for it to surface. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really curious where it's going to start next episode. Are they going to be out at her ship going, there's a mythosaur down there, or are they going to have to fight the damn thing? So, all right. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, because I really thought this was going to be a longer quest, and we're already done with it at episode 2. Now, we're going to jump over to the Bad Batch for a few minutes, and that one was also interesting in that it was another Crosshairs episode. Crosshairs being the original member of Clone Force 99, who, when Order 66 went out and the other group members of the team broke away from the Empire, he's the one that stayed. He's the one that hunted them. And we've been watching him as he shifts, as we see the Empire starting to treat the clones like they're just used items they don't need anymore, like they're slave labor. And this is the episode that goes a little too far for him, as you have a particular commander taking them on a mission to retrieve some items, and and you're seeing all these clones have been killed protecting these items. And what you find out is that it's just a bunch of crates full of gear for the new stormtroopers. So they weren't getting gear sent to them so they could protect this stuff, when the stuff they needed was in the box already. But it wasn't meant for them. It's meant for the conscripted soldiers. So this was really all about the final straw for Crosshairs. And when the actions of the commander cost one of the clones their lives, a clone named Mayday that we just met, it pushes Crosshairs too far, and he ends up shooting the commander. Now, at the end of it, he ends up waking up in the cloning facility that we learned about last week, and that Dr. Hemlock is going to be experimenting on him. But I think this leads to eventually Crosshairs rejoining Clone Force 99. So at least I think that's where the gist of it is going. So they're getting more and more interesting. They're short episodes, being a half hour long, and sometimes shorter than that. But they're really doing great character work on this series, and they are building towards finally answering exactly how Palpatine returned. So I'm liking this season a lot better than I did the previous one. So, all right, let's go ahead and we will take our second and final break. And when we come back, we'll talk some key comic issues. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, the like, the subscribe, all those buttons. And I mean, that really gives my boss an idea of how well we're doing. And tell your friends about the show. Let's try to get some more people in here, get the conversation hopping a little more. All right. Ed had one last Mando question, so I want to address that before we go to the comics. He says, do you know if Grogu's 100% CGI or do they have a Muppet like Yoda? They have a puppet on stage for all of his scenes. They do use puppeteers and a puppet to do the Baby Grogu scenes. So that's why he looks so realistic. They have some amazing puppets and some very talented puppeteers working it. All right, we're going to talk some key Star Wars issues. If you're looking to add to your collection or curious about what you've already got. We're going to start with the first appearance of Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, which is also the first appearance of Grogu and the Armorer in comics. And this is Star Wars The Mandalorian #1. It's not that old of a book, and at the moment, it's still pretty low in price. I mean, high-end wise, you're maybe paying $4 for it. You're more likely to be able to get it for $2, maybe even low as $1. And it's a series written by Rodney Barnes, who's a very good writer. So if you're looking for a quick investment, look for that issue. But that's not the first time that the Mando and Grogu showed up. They appeared on the cover of Star Wars Darth Vader #20. It's a variant cover. And this one has a high value of about $15, but you might even be able to find it for as low as $1, depending on quality wise, but you're more likely going to pay about $5 to find it. So now, the first time a Mandalorian of any kind appeared in a Star Wars story, and this doesn't count Boba Fett. Boba Fett doesn't count as a Mandalorian, at least to a lot of people. He's a son, he's a clone, yeah. But the first Mandalorian appearance was actually Star Wars #68. And this one goes as high as $200. But you could probably pick up a mid-range one for about $80, or just a Thrasher Reader copy for about $20 if you look closely. Now, Boba Fett made his first appearance in, of course, the first adaptation of Empire Strikes Back, which was in Marvel Comics Super Special #16. And this will go as high as $300. So if you got a copy, lying around that you're not even thinking about, mid-range is about $90 on it, and you get a low end for about $30. Moving on to Bo-Katan Kryze. Now, she first appeared in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Defenders of the Lost Temple #1. Now, this one's going for as much as $150 at the high end, but you probably can pick one up for $50. Maybe a little lower if you can find a good deal on it, but 50 is about the mid-range on those. And like Din, she appeared on a variant cover before that, though, Star Wars Dr. Aphra #19. Now, and this is another one that's going for next to nothing at this point. Your high end, you're maybe spending $4. You can get them for probably $2 or maybe even find it in a dollar bin somewhere. So those two variant covers are probably a good place to good investment there, both of which are the first technical appearances of those characters. Now, Star Wars, of course, is Star Wars #1, blah, blah. But the first original Star Wars story to appear in a comic was actually Star Wars #7. And again, this is another one that's not really that high up there yet. It's the high end is only $12. You're probably going to find them for about $3 most places, maybe even in a dollar bin. But that's a pretty good pickup because again, that's the first original Star Wars story to take place in a comic. Now, someone who's going to be coming big soon, these are kind of more speculation as they start showing up. Admiral Thrawn first appeared in Star Wars Heir to the Empire #1. And this one's already going for a high of $180. You could probably pick it up for about $60 in a mid-range and still going to be cost you close to $20 for a reader copy. So also we know Ahsoka Tano is going to get her own series after having appeared a couple times in other people's series. And her first appearance was actually in Star Wars The Clone Wars #1. And this is going to be a pretty penny. People are already realizing how much Ahsoka is worth. So if you've got this one in your collection, you might have something big there. The high-end value on this one is $700. Even mid-range books are going for about $180. And, you know, your low-end stuff, that's still $60. JD says, read the Timothy Zahn novels a long time ago. I loved them. Yeah, and a lot of people are hoping that what they end up doing is a kind of a play on the Heir to the Empire storyline. So, but we will have to see. And then finally, the other characters that are going to be popping up in the Ahsoka series, and we're going to get more of, are of course the Rebels from Star Wars Rebels. Now, there's that debate on whether a cameo counts as a first appearance. Well, Kanan Jarrus first officially appeared in Star Wars Kanan #1. The rest of the crew cameoed. That would be Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, Hera Syndulla. Right. So, but they are considered cameos. And the value of #1, that's about $50 high end. You can get them probably as low as between $5 and $15, depending on quality. But their first official appearance, as in they're actually more than just a cameo in the book, is all the way in Star Wars Canon #6. And when I say canon, it's Kanan, not cannon like you fire. And I think people realize this one is valuable because it's already up to $135 as a high. And the low end is probably $12. I put down the wrong mid number, so I think it was about 90 for this one. So there's some good investment possibilities there for these characters that are going to be becoming bigger and bigger as these series start rolling out. So keep an eye out for those. Check your used bookstores, your dollar bins and stuff for those books. Ed says, me too, JD. When Disney bought Lucasfilms, I was hoping that series was the 3 movies that they were going to do, but unfortunately we got what we got instead. I've heard that from a lot of people, Ed, that a lot of people hoped Heir to the Empire was going to be the 3rd series, the 3rd trilogy. And I think that would have been interesting from what I've seen of it. I haven't actually read the books, and I'm not sure exactly how they fit canon-wise. But I am going to put them on my list to listen to. I listen to things now. I don't tend to read because it's hard for me to find time to just sit and read, where I can listen while doing other things I need to do. So I'm a big user of Amazon Audible. So JD says, yeah, they even prevented them from being canon after they changed cloning. Okay, so they are officially not canon. See, it's interesting. They're kind of picking and choosing what to make canon, what to bring in, what not to bring in. And you have to wonder just how much they're paying attention and how much are they just kind of winging it. I mean, I know Dave Filoni is known for being the stickler guy, and he knows probably the history as well as anybody, but he does like to bring things in that make, I don't know if they contradict, but it does make it interesting. So he's bringing a lot of characters in from Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff like that that may not work now that they're not necessarily canon. So, yep, I just find that all pretty interesting. All right, guys, that is the show for today. Next week, we will be back with more on The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch as they're continuing. I will probably do another rewatch of a Marvel series. I'm actually having a lot of fun with those. So I hope you guys maybe join in, and I'll try to give you a heads up on which one I'm watching. Maybe if you guys want, you can catch up and watch it too. Ed says, fun show as usual. Have a great weekend. Well, thank you, Ed. I hope you guys have a great weekend too. Remember, stick around. Miss Jen is doing What's in the Box tonight. She has some great books. Then we've got Space Cadets, and of course, Sketch Up with Madeline, and I have to scroll back to get her name again. Madeline Hawley Rising from the Boston Metaphysical Society book. So stick around for all that. Remember to hit the like and subscribe on your way out, and we'll see you all next week. Have a great one.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.